Showtime. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Rosie and Bill Show. Our guest this week has taken the ability to adapt to difficult circumstances in 2020 to a whole new level.
He sure has. He's gone from a heated tent to a heated dome, from indoors and outdoors, all over the place in order to bring laughter and joy to countless numbers of folks at a time when they needed it most. And he's done it all in my backyard in Royersford, Pennsylvania. Please welcome to the Rosie and Bill Show, the man behind SoulJoel's Comedy Club and Lounge, Joel Richardson. Joel, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for the warm intro. I'm so happy to be here. This is great.
And we think it's really cool that it's now called ROFO instead of just Royersford. It just sounds so much cooler.
Yeah, it just rolls right off the tongue. Welcome to ROFO.
I like the way you said that. Well, Joel, we really are so happy to have you here with us today. And one of the things I thought would be really interesting for our viewers is to kind of start where your journey started. So take us through how you got into the comedy business and how your journey ultimately landed you in ROFO.
So I was going to school full-time to get my MBA while working full-time in pharmaceutical sales. And I got urged by my classmates to try stand-up comedy for the first time. So I tried stand-up. It was like that adrenaline rush that you never want to lose. And I never stopped performing. A year later, I'd signed up for an open mic, the show, and I had like 20 to 30 people coming. And the DJ canceled like 6 hours before the show. And even though it wasn't my fault, I felt like I was responsible and I never wanted to be in that position again. So I started producing my own shows. And now, 14 years later, I produce shows in 21 different states and now have my own brick and mortar place for a year now. SoulJoel's Comedy Club and Lounge in ROFO, as you said previously.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
So I have a question for you, Joel, because
Yes.
you talked about your friends wanting to get you into stand-up comedy. It's kind of a two-part question. The first part is, growing up, were you kind of a wise guy? Were you a class clown, always kind of getting in little jabs and making your friends laugh? And also, what is your style of comedy like?
So I actually focus on the producing aspect of it and managing talent. I still go up and host a lot of my own shows. But growing up, I had the group of friends that were always the class clowns. I was probably the least funny out of those guys, and those guys still continue to break my chops via group text or Facebook. You know, my biggest supporters are always the one that break my stones the most. But I do, like, I'm a storyteller. My whole family gives me a lot of material. I'm not a parent, but I'm a proud uncle. So my nieces and nephews always give me stories. My dad, I was the best man in wedding number 2 and 3. 3 up, 3 down. So there's obviously endless material from that. But you know, other than that, I've been able to make a living out of being a talent manager and a comedy producer, not just a performer.
Just so you know, Joel, so your dad was married 3 times?
Yeah, married and divorced 3 times.
Okay, well, my mom wins. She was 4 for 4. So, or actually, I guess 1 out of 4. Well, however you look at that statistic, but she wins 4 to 3.
Not bad, not bad.
Yeah. Now, needless to say, Joel, you open your business, 2020 comes along, and I mean, you're throwing more curveballs than a major league hitter over the course of a season. And yet you and your team managed to adapt and overcome and adapt and overcome. As I said in the intro, indoors, outdoors, tents, domes. Talk to us about that. What were some of the curveballs thrown at you and how did you handle them?
So we went from being open 1 day a week in November when we first opened in 2019. By the end of February, just 4 months later, in 2020. We were open 5 days a week, including our Monday night open mic. And Thursday night was our charity night, and it still is, where we do the same $20 tickets, and we donate half the money back to various local organizations. And then literally 2 weeks later, like everybody else, we were shut down. One of my comedians flew in from LA. He had his own hour Comedy Central special. We went to high school together, and that in 5 hours, that's how quickly we got shut down. So yeah, things just happened. But thankfully, our landlord, Rick Lewis of Lewis Environmental, he has an outdoor space that's eventually going to be, it's an old yarn factory. It's a big cement slab, and it's eventually going to be townhouses and apartments and rooftop bars. And it's right outside of our comedy club. And July 3rd, we decided to open up, and we're in the comedy business, right? Entertainment. We don't have a 401k match program. So what he decided to do was he matched our sand. So we had 200 tons of sand delivered, and we paid for 9 truckloads. And then he matched it and bought 100 tons himself. And we made a beach in the middle of Montgomery County of Pennsylvania, and people loved it because it felt like the never-ending summer. So people just loved it, and there's so many countless stories I could tell you guys where a husband and wife who I didn't even know what they did. They came up to me after a show because the comedians love to roast me, and we had a 40-foot tractor trailer bed, and he asked me what was our plan, and so we told him what we wanted to do. He donated 4 days off of work and his time, and we built this 40-foot stage out of a tractor trailer bed. And he wouldn't let me recognize him on social media, so we have to refer to him as an angel living on earth.
That's incredible.
Yeah,
I
really
can
cool.
only imagine how many people have gotten so much joy out of this through these difficult times, because really people couldn't do anything. They couldn't have much access instead of sitting in front of a computer or a television.
There's so many people that, and we understand, we respect, everybody has their own timetable of when they feel safe to leave their homes and their families and everything. But the people that have come out, they've told us, whether it's through this pandemic or 2020, whatever they're going through, our shows have been the light spot in their 2020, which has been a dim year. And before this, I've been doing this for over 14 years. Whether it's a widow or a widower, people come to the show, they lose a loved one. It's their first time that they come out of their house. And for me, as a comedy producer, to sit in the back of the room, or in this case, the outside space, and watch those people for 90 minutes to 2 hours, there's a difference in their body language when they walk out of the show versus when they walk in. You can see when they laugh and they release all those endorphins. And that's the best part of my job. It's very rewarding.
That's wonderful. And I was going to ask you what is the best part of 2020, but I think you just answered it. There seems to be just a great camaraderie amongst people in the comedy world. Why is that so strong, and how does it land with you?
Well, I think it's the question that you asked me earlier about performing. And so I did start out as a performer. And so I know what it's like. I cashed out my 401k to do this full time. So I know what it's like to live paycheck to paycheck and live. So these comics, a lot of times when they come over the last 9 months, it's been the first show that they've done. Since March. So I give them opportunities to make money, but not only make money, but do what they love. To do shows on Zoom isn't same when you're having that same room connection, interaction with the crowd, and to get that therapy of doing what you love and having that connection with the crowd. We have now trained our audiences, no matter who the comic is that they're coming to see, as you see of all the portrait, all the headshots on the back behind me. They come out to see a good show. They, no matter what the comic is, they're going to see a quality show when they come to a SoulJoel show. So all the comics love that because the audiences are comedy fans. And it's we're like any other job. It's a job. So when they come to our club, the comics and the audiences are very rewarding because, they laugh. And not all audiences are like that.
Joel, I have to tell you, I had so much respect for you before we even started the show. Now I have even more because, you know, you mentioned cashing in your 401k. I can relate firsthand to that. You've really got to believe in what you're doing to make a move like that. So kudos to you for having the courage to really follow your passion.
You know, and certain people say I'm an idiot for ever mentioning that, but I always, I just, it is what it is. And several people have said that to me over the summer where they watch me at a show and they could tell that it's my passion and I'm not doing it for the money. I mean, obviously I want to pay my bills and be able to pay my staff and everything else. But at the end of the day, I'm doing this because I love it. And it's everything that you just said. So the money's going to, the money's going to follow. And my accountant even said it the same thing, that 2020, it's all a memory. It wasn't about making money. Just got to make sure that your business is still standing. So now 2021 and going forward, I laid all the groundwork and all the comics are going to remember me because of what I did for them in 2020.
That's really inspirational, Joel.
I hope so.
It is. How did you come up with the name SoulJoel?
Oh, I'm glad you asked. I grew up in a predominantly white, town in South Jersey, and I used to go with all my friends dancing on Sunday night if we had Monday off, or Thursday night if we had Friday off. And then I loved to dance, and I played soccer, and I used to dance every time I scored a goal because I didn't score that much. So they would be like, why you always dancing, SoulJoel? And it just stuck. And then, so my name is Richardson, and it's not that hard. But when I would get introduced, people were like, give it up for the next comic, Joel Richards. And I was like, damn, that's not that hard, but I don't understand why they're messing my name up. So I decided just to shorten it, go back to my my nickname, SoulJoel, which obviously now I dropped. I just go by Joel Richardson. But I kept it for the company name, and it's just brand recognition at this point.
It's definitely working for you. And, you know, Joel, one thing I'm curious about, again, taking a quick look back into 2020, and we're going to come back and look forward too, because that's always fun to do. But you brought some incredibly big names to ROFO. And two things. How were you able to pull that off? And was it a challenge at all being in a town that maybe not that many people have heard of?
Well, you know, it's all the relationships that I've developed over the last 14, like Pete Davidson, who's on SNL now and had his own movie with Judd Apatow over the summer. You know, I had put him on stage 3 weeks before his 16th birthday for the first time on Staten Island. And a lot of these guys that I've worked with, like Chris Roach was on Kevin Can Wait with Kevin James. He got discovered by him 3 years ago before his television show. And that's how I got his brother, Gary Valentine, came here. So it was a lot of relationships I've been cultivating for years now. And I had the reputation. And now with Philadelphia had shut down and New York had shut down, there was fewer and far opportunities for comedians to work. So I brought them into my world and knew that I would just, my team, we put on a good show. We paid them the right amount of money. They all came and had fun, and the word of mouth started, spreading very, very quickly.
That's fantastic. We are going to have more with SoulJoel in just a minute, but right now it's time for a break with Coach Lombardi. Take it away, Coach.
Thanks, Rosie and Bill, and Happy New Year. That's right, we can finally say hindsight is 2020. And with that comes New Year resolutions. But it's important to remember that January 1st isn't the only day you can start new. Every day is a chance to reinvent yourself. Clear out the distractions and create a daily list that can overlay onto your calendar that allows you to actually achieve those things that you want to do each day. That is what will get you to your weekly, monthly, and yearly goals. Then just stick to it. By having that schedule to follow, you'll ensure that the end goal will be received. Because after all, as I always say, consistency does equal results. So I want to give you just 3 things that you should put into your daily routine right now. Keep them in there for the next 100 days. And once those 100 days are over, guess what? I think you'll find that they've become a habit. So just keep going. So the first thing I want you to do is start the day with 8 ounces of the cleanest water you can find and squeeze half of a lemon into that water with a pinch of Himalayan sea salt. Drink that before you even have coffee or tea or anything. Second, I want you to also start the day with a walk equaling about 4,000 steps. It sounds like a lot, but it's really only about 20 minutes. And then end the day with a walk equaling 4,000 steps. So everything else you do in between is just going to be bonus steps. These simple steps will bring about better health right away. I want you to think about this quote from Buddha. Each morning we are born again. What we do today is what matters most. I'm Coach Lombardi for the Rosie and Bill Show. Back to you guys.
Thanks, Coach, for another great segment, as always. Now, Joel, you just talked about all the great relationships that you've had over the years, and we talked a lot about a year that I don't think any of us will ever forget, 2020. And I don't know about you, but I'm really glad to have been able to wave it goodbye and move on.
Yeah, it's one of those things we won't quickly forget it, but I'm glad it's out of here. I joke around on social media that our whole team, we have our black belts. We're all ninjas. There's no more curveballs that 2020 can throw our way moving forward into 2021. There's nothing else. The bullpen's empty. No more curveballs. We hit them all out of the park. We're not going to miss. There's nothing that we can't overcome.
Absolutely. I want to rewind one more time, Joel, because I'm curious, because this has had an effect on where you are today. Who were your comedic influences growing up?
Well, man, I used to go to the Comedy Cellar up in New York. I just happened to stumble upon it on a double date. This is back in 1999. I was a sophomore in college, and I didn't realize that the Comedy Cellar is one of the top 5 comedy clubs in the country. So I was seeing, Louis C.K. and Wanda Sykes and Lisa Lampanelli, Greg Giraldo, and then halfway through the show, they were like, "You've been a great audience. Please welcome our special guest, Chris Rock." And I'm like, "Oh my gosh!" And I was 15 feet away in the cellar, only fits like 125 people or so. And I was like, "Oh man, this is what New York's all about." So I just quickly became a comedy. I don't know, a fan of comedy. I don't know if I would say anyone influenced me, but there's a reason why I'm wearing this Puma shirt. A year ago in December, the second week in December, I was supposed to have Angelo Lozada headline, and he had come down with stage 4 cancer. And so he had to cancel on me. He was the warm-up comedian for The Daily Show and traveled the world with Trevor Noah. Trevor Noah discovered him, and then when he took over The Daily Show, took Angelo with him. And Angelo caught his big break probably around 55 years old. And he just reminded me and all of us that growing up, it's like coming up, is that you don't want to rush your time. Your time is your time, and your journey is your journey. It's going to happen the way it's supposed to happen and unfold, and just stay in your lane. And that's something that always stuck with me. And he told me that a year ago. And then literally a week later, on December 18th, he passed away. And we went to his viewing at Gotham Comedy Club last year in January. He was a big influence on me in the short amount of time that I knew him because of that. Like he just taught me so much.
Joel, I have to tell you, that is a powerful, powerful story. And, there's certain things you've said so far in our conversation that just really resonate with me personally. That one really, really impacted me because I feel the same way. And just like we talked earlier about that passion you had and the sacrifices you made to take a shot, and also understanding that things may not happen in the time that we want or that we initially thought, but if you truly love what you're doing and you keep at it, I think you're really proving that regardless of when it is, it's never too late to do it.
Yeah. Yeah, and he always wore Puma shoes, so I always wear Puma just to remember him and remind myself of him and his influence on me. But exactly what you just said, I've been providing, whether it was, like I said, widows or widowers or people that just need comedy the most. And this year, more people just discovered me, but they discovered what I've been doing all along. And whether it's a comedian or audience member, people just, send me fan mail or text messages or emails, just whatever it is. They're really just enjoying my shows, and I'm happy to have that influence on others.
One other thing I just wanted to share with you along those lines is that I have to give credit to my son. He's really the first person to tell me about you and what you were doing. And since that time, everyone I've talked to in the area has either been to one of your shows or is going to one of your shows or knows who you are. So that word is definitely getting around.
Well, thanks to your son for putting me on your radar.
Yeah. I'll let him know, or he'll see this and know.
Bill's son has actually been a very integral part of this process. He gives us such great feedback and leads, and we're so glad he's behind us. It's wonderful.
Well,
And
I appreciate him.
And Joel, it really is wonderful that what you're doing is resonating with people, and that you're able to gauge that, like, people are reaching out to you and letting you know, because that does really validate everything that you just said, all the sacrifices that you've made, because really that's why we do it, right? Because we like that connection. We want that exchange, and you want to feel like you have something of value to share with people, and you really do.
And to not to be negative, but I also get some hate mail. So I understand that I'm not going to be everybody's cup of tea, but just the fact that I know I'm rattling the cage and getting some hate mail, I know I'm also doing something right. So please keep sending that as well.
Okay, well, that's true. That's true.
Yikes.
No such thing as bad press in most cases, right?
Exactly.
I have a question though. What about this?
Sure.
You bring your own concept that you have now. Like, where are you doing the shows, and what do people have to do if they want to come?
Yeah, there's a couple of different aspects of that and reasons behind it. One, there wasn't a liquor license available when we decided to open up, and we opened up in a short amount of time in 2019. So, but then people just loved it. A couple people were like, "Oh, you're not going to get a bar," and I'm like, "No. At the end of the day, we're not responsible for serving people. So all we do is sell tickets. That's it. And then everybody else, you just bring whatever you want. So, and then we're not going to ever serve food. So instead of competing with all the restaurants partner with us and help us promote. So we're bringing people in. So another thing, the other night I was in a brand new restaurant downtown that just opened up here in Royersford, and the head bartender, the owner, brought me over and introduced me. And he goes, "Oh, you're Joel? I got a bone to pick with you." And I was like, "Oh, what's up?" He goes, "Yeah." He goes, "I'm going to get you one of those like cleat things that people golf with to clean their shoes, because we have nothing but sand. We have 200 tons of sand in our property." So I guess people go into the restaurant afterwards and they have sand all in their. So I was like, what I wanted to say was, "You're welcome." But listen, at the end of the day, I mean, he was basically saying how many people we bring, but they're busy because we're busy, and it's a whole, we're not competing against them. They're helping us. They're one of our sponsors. The two owners are very nice, Colby and his girlfriend, Alyssa, and they've been big supporters since day one, since we opened up here. So yeah, we're never going to get a liquor license, and we're never going to serve food. We just want to keep partnering with the local places, and they can either come before or after to the restaurant and come enjoy a show in between. That's what we do. We just entertain.
And are people still bringing their own chairs as well?
Yeah, and that only started with COVID. That way we don't have to wipe everything down, and we want to keep everybody safe. And whatever, people can bring whatever they want as far as, what they want. Some people bring like lounge chairs or beach chairs, or they forget their chair because they're not big into reading now. So that was just a little joke. But yeah, we just want everybody to stay safe. So we asked everybody to bring their own chair.
And do you do the 6 feet, or do they have to wear masks?
Yeah, so exactly. So everybody wears masks when they come in and exit, or they go to the bathroom. But as they're seated, they don't have to wear a mask. They can let their laughter out. And they could sit together if they wish to do so, and they bought tickets together. But if not, we keep everybody else socially distanced 6 feet away.
Joel, we talked a lot about how you got started. We talked a lot about 2020. We said goodbye to 2020. I want to look ahead now here in 2021. What's on the horizon?
Just a lot more of the same. We're going to keep, taking the momentum from 2020 and just keep building, doing more fundraisers with the local community, bringing in the bigger names. We're going to still do the open mics. We called it Comedy Club and Lounge because we wanted to keep doing like music events and different stuff. So we're not just going to do comedy. We're going to be a one-stop shopping as far as entertainment. So we'll probably get more into that. But I don't know, just keep visiting SoulJoels.com for more and follow us on social media, Instagram and Facebook.
If you could write your own, last chapter in this story, where would you want to see SoulJoels go?
Yeah, well, so I am going to write a book when this is all over. It's 2020, how I made lemonade from COVID lemons. And so hopefully one day someone wants to read it once I write it. But man, I don't know. So I do manage talent, so I want to keep doing that. But I'm going to get into producing my own TV shows as far as comedy production. And we'll start doing shows here at SoulJoels. But everything just bigger and better, and probably eventually have, we're gonna do resort takeovers and cruises when everything gets back to normal. Those are the kind of things that we're gonna look forward to, and obviously, having other locations as well.
I was just thinking, with everything that you laid out, and I love the broad vision, that you have in bringing in those other aspects to where you're at, like you said, music and maybe other forms of entertainment. And I was thinking that, if you ever want to wander into the talk show world and maybe have a live interactive talk show as part of what you do, maybe we can have our people contact your people.
Yeah, have your people contact my people. You know how to get a hold of me. That'd be great.
So talk to us real quickly about your open mics. So what if people want to try their hand at comedy, like say Bill and I?
So sign-ups at 6:30 and the show starts at 7. Everybody gets their 4 minutes of fame. Sometimes the things that aren't supposed to be funny are funny. One guy, he just literally was reading off his paper, and like you had said before the show, like just make sure I let my answers breathe a little bit. So he wouldn't let his jokes breathe, and he wouldn't get the audience reaction. So he would just go, all right. And he would bring his paper up in front of his face and start reading again. Like that little nuance was so funny. So after the show, I walk up to him and he was like, I like all nervous that Joel's talking to me, Joel? And so I went over to talk to him. I go, hey, do you want feedback? He goes, yeah. And I said, hey, was there a reason why you kept bringing up the paper? I said, he goes, I couldn't see the audience. And I asked the other two comics that are a little more seasoned. They're like, we could see the audience. I think he was so nervous, he just wasn't looking. So it's just little things about the newer comics make it so funny. And we get an audience out of that because real comedy fans like to see that too, and like to see new material being worked out, and just support the local artists.
Do you ever see someone and be like, oh my gosh, this guy is a diamond in the rough, or this girl is a diamond in the rough? Do you think?
Yeah. So like I said, Pete Davidson, who's on Saturday Night Live, I put him on stage for the first time 3 weeks before his 16th birthday. He was 15 years old, and you could just tell he only did 6 or 7 minutes. Maybe it was a little longer, but around then. And you could just tell, even though he was young, his material, not really his material, but he just had that stage presence. You're like, there is something special about him. And, within 5 years of that performance, 4 years, he was on Saturday Night Live. And that being announced as the youngest cast member since Adam Sandler and Eddie Murphy. So you could just tell that, he had it. So absolutely. I don't want to say I see it all the time, but when you see it, As soon as the show's over, I'm going to start writing up my routine for open mic night.
Which night of the week is it? Every night?
Tuesday night.
Tuesdays.
Yep.
Okay. So,
All right, Joel, we thank you so much for joining us. We thank you for all you're doing and bringing joy, laughter, and large crowds of people and sand to ROFO. Thank you so much.
See you guys. Thank you so much.
all right. Thank you, folks. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next week.